Scott, thank you very much for joining us.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's nice to be invited, actually.
Can you start off by telling us a bit about yourself and how you got into starting businesses?
So I'm 54, so quite a bit older than you guys. And I've built, and I've sold 5 companies, totally just over 15 million quid. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. And what I do is I build companies with the sole purpose for selling them. So I make more money when I exit them than I do when I'm running them. So, and I've been doing that. So I founded my first business when I was 19 and I sold that when I was 24. So, yeah, it's good. It's been a good story and thoroughly enjoy the journey. Always have done, actually.
What was that first business? Because you've been involved in so many industries. I think you've done everything. I couldn't find one
Yeah,
thing that you haven't done.
I've not been involved in. So anything from my first business was jewelry. So I was a jewelry designer, gemologist. So I studied jewelry and I had a jewelry business. And then my first company that I sold was a national plumbing business, but I'm not a plumber. I wouldn't know one end of the ratchet to another,
Interesting.
but I do know how to build teams that can deliver plumbing services. So my concept there was to work. There was 5 of us. It wasn't just me. It was 5 of us there, and we built this business that serviced the whole of the UK. And we ended up selling that to a company called GE Capital. And at the time, they were one of the biggest companies in the world by market capitalization. So, but yeah, that was a good learning curve. I was 24. We
Amazing.
sold the business for 5.7 million quid. And
Incredible.
I'm a young guy. I'm a young guy of 1 million quid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but that was back in 1994. And that's when 1 million quid was a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do I do with it? I didn't take any tax advice. So my accountant said to me, "You've got a huge big tax bill now, unless you roll it into another company." So that's exactly what I did. I rolled it into another business, and that started me on this journey of building companies and then selling them.
Incredible. Oh yeah, you kind of answered it there, but like building businesses in so many different disciplines, is it more about, greatness is in the agency of others, or is it, do you just learn really quickly? How do you actually learn the skills to do that?
So first of all, the first thing I do is replace myself. So as a founder, I can do that. And the way I do it, I use a trick called equity. So when you found a business, you have 100% of the shares. And you can't afford to bring really good people on at first. So what you do is you give them equity, you give them shares in the business to get them on board, and you sell the dream and you sell that concept, you sell that idea. And then you can bring people on board that work for what we call sweat equity. So they won't have a big wage, but they'll get a share in the business. And ultimately, they'll be rewarded as that business grows. And that's something I've been doing for nearly 35 years now. So I'm most entrepreneurs are very, very protective over equity. I'm really happy to give equity away. And I do that because the first person I bring on board is an MD, someone that can run this business, someone that understands and shares my vision. The next person I bring on board is a really good operations director, someone that can deliver what the CEO or the MD is selling. Then we bring on board branding, marketing. Then we bring on board the teams that start to wrap around what we're doing. And my job is not to work in the company, is to work on the company. So I don't actually have a role in the business other than I'm a founder. And then I can work with the team to build and ultimately exit that business.
So you're doing that right from day one. Is that
Yeah,
is that
yeah.
right?
It's called reverse engineering. So it's a little bit like Tom. You know when you get in your car and you set a sat nav. We can set a sat nav now, can't we? And it can take us to a destination, and we can avoid toll roads, we can avoid busy roads, or we can go the fast route, the slow route, the scenic route. And so many companies set up a business, but they don't set the sat nav. They don't actually know where they're going. It's got a great idea, and we're going to build this great idea. We're going to sell millions of widgets, but they don't really know how they're going to get there. So if you look at where you want to be, and it could well be you want to be sitting on the Med with your boat in the harbour, sipping pina coladas. Okay, that's cool. You need a few million quid to do that. So how we make a few million quid? So that means where are we going to invest our money? Where's we going to invest our time? Are we going to grow this organically? Are we going to borrow, create debt? Are we going to grow by acquisition? There's loads of things that you start to look at. But if you start a business knowing what your end plan is, your end plan, then it's actually easier to do that. It is easier to do that than just building a business and saying, if we build it, they will come.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
come to what?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a very interesting way of looking at it, sort of building a business just to sell, because not a lot of people actually think about that. Like, really do start with the end plan. That's a good good actionable tip, isn't it?
And it doesn't have to be. Look, I gave a talk at Kesgrave High School actually years ago, about 10 years ago. And there was this lovely young sort of, I think they were twins, but it was about 15, 16, sort of GCSE years. And they was telling me about how they built this beachcombing business, and it was a proper little business. They were charging people for a little tote bag. They were going on the beach, and they were getting sponsors for the local shops to be able to sponsor the tote bags. So they were bringing in money from advertising. They were charging £5 for a Sunday, and the one that got the most rubbish in their bag on the beach got an award, which was a discount voucher to the ice cream shop or something silly like that. And but it was taking sort of several £1,000s a year. And then the best thing about that is that that business then can be franchised. There's 57 beaches in East Anglia. There's 290 beaches around the UK. So that concept could be then formulated. That could be put into a business plan, and that could be grown out. And we were sort of sitting there in front of the whole school, thinking about how we could franchise this business, how we could take what they've created, how we could license it, how we can get all more companies sponsoring these bags. And that was a little business. And at the end of that conversation, we talked about selling it. Now, who would buy this business? And then that was really, really exciting. So it doesn't have to be a huge business. It could be a tiny little business, like a beachcomber business, but it still has a saleable value at the end.
Okay. Are there some businesses which are more sellable than others? Like, what would you advise not starting if you're looking to sell?
It doesn't matter what people are looking to buy is reoccurring revenues. So a subscription base is really important for potential clients. Anything where people are paying regular money every month through a contract to access the services or products that you're selling, that's really valuable. And then the value is then determined by how long those contracts are. So if you can get people, if you create an app that allows people to share lifts after a night out in their local town, and then you get people paying a yearly subscription of £99 a year to use that app, that is something that's quite saleable for somebody because they're buying reoccurring revenue, and that allows them to raise the debt, to buy the business, to pay you, and they're not worrying where the next sale is coming from. Alternatively, create a really good brand that people love. And you can do that now through social media, through influencers. Love it or loathe it, there is a huge plethora of platforms that you can launch products now on.
Yeah, sure.
When you sold NEG to Daisy Group, what was the key moves that made it attractive to them in the company?
It's a great question, Harrison. Well researched as well. Business sold for £27 million, and it was bought by a FTSE 250 company. The Daisy Group are a big business, £250 million turnover. And they were buying these 7-year contracted revenues with the NHS. So we created a patient access platform and software and a methodology. And the primary care trusts were tied into 7-year, or they were not tied in, that's the wrong word to use. They were committed to 7-year contracts. And those 7-year contracts made multiple millions of pounds. And then, so what they're buying is they're buying those reoccurring revenues, knowing that they could add on other services to that. So we was only providing telephony healthcare, but they could have offered triage health services. They could have been offering broadband. They could have been offering all sorts of services on the back of these contracts. So to them, it was very valuable. The business was making nearly £4 million when we sold it, so it was already making huge amounts of money. So it was a very valuable business.
Okay, sure. Paddy, I want to talk a bit about Paddy and Scott's. So what made this venture different to other coffee roasting businesses? Why was that? Why was this one worth so many millions and others, say, aren't?
Paddy and Scott's is a great business because the consumer loves the product. So Paddy and Scott's had a mission. Paddy and Scott's was an ethical coffee brand, and it was all about sharing the retail value of that cup of coffee with the farming community that were growing it. So it was it was a mission-led business. It was a company that people wanted to work with. It was a company that people wanted to associate their brand values to Paddy and Scott's brand values. And Paddy and Scott's become a people company. It become more than just, we just happened to sell coffee, but we were, the underpinnings of that business, what it stood for, what we created, the school meal projects, which I believe is over 1 million school meals now. that's been funded through the program, the building of the schools, the community interest, the water programs, all of that was funded through people working with Paddy and Scott's. And who doesn't want to work in a business where you feed people, you
Yeah.
change people's lives?
Doing
Who
something
wants to
good.
go? You want to go home at night and say, "How's your day been?" "Oh, it's been a tough day today." Yeah. However, I help feed children in coffee-grown regions around the world. That's a really powerful driver for anybody founding a business.
You ended up selling Paddy and Scott's. You chose a management buyout rather than selling to a corporate. How come that decision was made?
The business, we had an offer from a PLC, a New Zealand-based PLC, and it was a really good offer. It was a great offer for the business, which put Paddy and Scott's in a public company, in the public domain, which means that the shareholders would own the business as opposed to the people running the business. And what the PLC couldn't do was promise the longevity and the funding for the food projects that we'd committed to. And you might say, well, that doesn't affect you though, Scott, because you've sold the business and you've walked away. But without cast iron guarantees that they would support the food projects and all the good stuff that we were doing around the world, it didn't sit well with the management team. Now, the management team are really important, Harrison, because when you sell a business, there's an earn-out period where you don't get all the money up front. You get a proportion up front, and the balance is paid to you subject to hitting these financial KPIs, these key performance indicators. And if the management team aren't bought into the buy, then they're never going to operate at maximum efficiency. So Paddy and Scott's is now owned by its management team, and the debt is funded through external investors. And an MBO, a management buyout, is a really good way of selling a business because the people that are buying the business are the people that helped you build that business. And as long as they can raise the debt and the finances to buy it, they're the ones that are best placed to run it. So Paddy and Scott's was best placed for a management buyout. And the team that have bought it are absolutely brilliant. They'll build that business much better than I can do now. They're a really committed bunch. You've got a great chief exec in Jonathan Reed. You've got an equally successful operations director in Zoe Hill as well. So you've got two people at the front of that business with really good backers. It's exciting times for them. I probably lost some money, but it wasn't huge amounts of money. And do I feel better now that it's in the hands of the management team, not in a corporate PLC? Yeah, absolutely. Well, it would have been capable hands before. It would have been in capable hands with the public company, but it would have put Paddy and Scott as a corporate PLC, and that's not what we're about.
Would it have lost the mission if it went to a corporate PLC?
It could have done. It could. I mean, that they would be stupid to lose that mission. They would be stupid not to be able to back the projects. But you have to get shareholder buy-in, and shareholders look at profit. So let's say we make £1 million profit, and then the management team say, out of that £1 million, we're going to put £500,000 into a food project in Brazil. Shareholders might say, no, we want that £500,000 to come to us because we've invested in this business. So we're not going to sign off for £500,000 food project in Brazil. So that then means that the mission is being dictated by the shareholders, and shareholders tend to be driven by profit. So, that's basic economics. You would have learned that in your 5th year at economics at school, so that isn't unusual to get your head around that.
Yeah, sure. I wonder, do you ever find it hard to let go of these businesses that you've started?
No, not at all.
No. Okay, interesting.
No, not at all.
Absolutely
not at all. Yeah, straight when I set the business. Yeah, it's from day one.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
I get really excited when I make the money and I get paid a really nice big check, and you have all these zeros in your bank balance when you check on your cash point machine. It's really good, actually.
Can imagine.
They only go up to 7 digits. They don't go any more than that. Yeah. So and that's pretty cool.
So that makes letting go a bit easier.
So that's pretty cool. And then you think, right, okay, what else can I do? If I want to, I've just come back from a run. I'm going to go down the gym in a minute. I'm gonna. I've got another call to do this afternoon, and I've got a pretty chill day today. Tomorrow's quite busy. I'm off to the south of France tomorrow. I've got to do a talk at the University of Suffolk. Then I've got a web call on Friday with a wine producer. So my life is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the fruits of my work. Absolutely.
Yeah, sure, definitely. I want to quote you here. I've been enjoying quoting people recently on the last few episodes, much to their dismay. But here we go. So the new emerging workforce of successful entrepreneurs will be the electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and builders. Can you sort of dive into that a bit and Tell us why you think that.
Yeah, great research there, Tom. Great research. I genuinely believe that there is a massive gap in the skills for trades. And when I say trades, I've recently built a house in Suffolk, and it's got a really complex solar roof, and it's got mechanical ventilation, a heat recovery system, and it's got battery storage, and it's really cool. Cool. It's lots of glass and that sort of thing. And the designers that designed all that roof and designed all that electrical data engineering stuff, the amount of money I paid them was more money than I paid my lawyers to do a corporate M&A deal for me. Yeah. And when I see the owner of that business turn up in a brand new 911 Porsche, and he gets out in a suit and he clips this little tester and he works out the efficiency rating of my roof, I'm thinking, wow, that is the game I want to be in. And he's an electrician. He studied electric. He went to Ipswich. He went to Ipswich one, and he studied electrical data engineering. Yeah. And
Amazing.
when you're seeing plumbers being paid, 1,500–1,600 pounds a day, not on a job rate, but by the time they've done the work to fit a bathroom, to fit this is more money than politicians are making. This is more money than the PM is making. And the thing is that it's supply and demand. So less and less young people are going into trades, and the price is going up and up and up. So those ones that are fortunate enough to go and do that are making really good money. And what they do then is they invest in a company. They don't do it all themselves. They have a company. Do you think the guy that turned up in the Porsche did the work? Of course he didn't. He has a team of people now that are doing that work.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's why I think they're going to be the princes of the industry.
Yeah. And of course, AI proof. There's no one can take that job, can they?
Exactly.
No,
I was
no
going to say
software.
that. Yeah, I was going to say, so I've got two boys, 14 and 16. I've got four sons, 26, 22, 14 and 16. And Oliver was saying to me, what should I do? And I said, well, choose a career where AI can't destable that. Choose a career where it can't be done by AI.
Yeah. Well, it's a big consideration now. I genuinely think it is for young people picking jobs. If you're not thinking about it, then these entry jobs are disappearing, really, aren't they? The sort of corporate entry ones.
Yeah, I work with lots of companies actually. One is a graphic design business, and they wrap buildings, and they do create designs for buildings. And before they take a picture, and they have a young intern that does all the graphic design and so forth. And what they do now is they take a picture, high image picture, they load it into an AI program, and it will automatically design it for them, create the cutouts. It will tell them the colors to use and so forth. And that's churned out in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that would have taken a young person probably a day to create all that. And now it's being done. And then all they'll do is top and tail it at the end. They'll make changes. They'll put it into a format that can be printed. And all of that work that would have taken a young designer, 2 or 3 days to do that, is being formulated through an AI program.
And it's only going to get better and better and better. So,
yeah.
What's been some of the hardest challenges that you've faced as a founder?
You have we talk about all the success stories. Nobody tends to talk about the stories that cost you money. I had a recruitment company that failed spectacularly, and I learned an awful lot from that. There's loads of stuff that so you learn a lot from your mistakes, not just from your wins as well.
Yeah, definitely. Are there any mistakes that have sort of become your best lesson? Something that you could tell to a young entrepreneur?
Yeah, look, I always say to people, if your mum understands what you're doing, then you've got a really good. That's a good start. Yeah. So if you can explain what you're doing to your mum, and she goes, "I get it, I get that. Yeah, I buy that." Yeah, then you know that you're onto a winner. When things are very, very complex and very niche, then it's difficult to get that out to a broader audience. So will it pass the mum test?
That's a good.
Sit down. Yeah. Tell her what you're going to do, and then mums are really good as well. They'll always give you moral support, even if it's not really a good idea. They'll still say,
"I feel like I need that on my wall, so I can wake up and look at it every morning."
Yeah, did it pass the mum?
Yeah, just one more quote as well. So, doing good is good for business. Can you sort of you talked about that already, but does that ever clash with sort of like growth targets and shareholders and whatnot?
No, does it? No. So but basically, everybody wants to work for a good company, and good companies attract good talent. Yeah. So if your mission is to do good, then that's really good for business. And this is where people get confused. People think doing good, you've got to be a charity, you've got to be a community interest company, you've got to be a not-for-profit.
Yeah.
That's not the case. What it is, good companies will use that profit as a driver for change.
Yeah.
So they'll help with, the communities. They'll help with the supply chain. They'll help with, environmental issues. Good companies will drive change
Yeah.
because their consumers buy that. We all want to buy from good people. I don't want to buy plastic-clad products that are going to go into landfill. I want to deal with a company that has a really good, CSR, underpinnings. That ESG is actually a part of what they do. I'm a consumer. I'm going to give you my hard-earned pound. I'm going to give it to you, and I want you to look after the planet with it. I want you to look after the people. I want you to look after the world, because I can give it to somebody else that does, and that means it's really good for business.
Sure. Okay. Just to sort of wrap up, what's one thing you wish you knew before selling your first business?
Take good tax advice.
Okay.
So make sure that there are loads of different things. There's rollover relief. There's used to be called entrepreneurial relief, but I think it's called business asset disposal relief now, or something like that. And just make sure that you've got good accountants. Get yourself a good mentor as well. If you're a young entrepreneur, get yourself a good mentor. Someone that's been around the block, someone that's done what you want to do, someone that's experienced what you want to achieve. And a lot of good mentors will give their time quite inexpensively, and then they'll take a slightly bigger bonus at the end if they achieve it. But if you're a young entrepreneur, get yourself a good mentor.
Yeah.
And there are loads of great organisations. The Business Growth Coaches Network, the Start Build Grow program, is a government-funded program for young entrepreneurs in Suffolk, around the Ipswich area. You can get access to a whole plethora of coaches. There's an app that you can download with various templates for marketing, for legal letters, for HR. It's really, really good, and it's all free. It's funded by the government. So reach out, get that support. That's what I'd say.
Okay. Sure. So you do a bit of mentoring, don't you, for young business owners? Is that correct?
Well, I do mentoring,
Yeah.
and I mentor and I coach business owners. Some of them are younger than the others. Some of
Yeah.
them are older. But I do quite a lot of talks at schools about entrepreneurialism,
Yeah.
what it means. I do try to help younger entrepreneurs.
Is there anything that excites you about the next generation of entrepreneurs?
I think that our younger generation are quite hardworking. I think they get a really bad rap as well. I think parents also put a lot of pressure on young adults to achieve these ridiculous GCSE and A-level results, and there's added pressure that you don't really want when you're 16 to 18. And I saw a post recently, because this is A-level results time and GCSE results time this time of year. And I saw a post by one mum that put it up, and she obviously meant well, but it was, I'm absolutely distraught. My daughter didn't get straight 9 stars in all of her GCSEs, and she lost 2 points. She only got a 7 in English literature or something. I'm distraught. And I'm just thinking, if that's the pressure that the mum is putting on her daughter when she's 16, how much pressure is there going to be on her to her A-level results, her first choice of university? And you don't need to do that. It's not your life, parents. It's your kids' lives. Let them lead those lives, because there's going to be a lot more challenges as you grow older, as you get older, than there are during those GCSE and A-level years. They're just a stepping stone. No one's ever asked me for my GCSE results. No one's ever asked for my A-level results. I haven't even got a degree.
I can't even remember mine.
No,
I only did them 2 years ago. I'm like, what's I getting that subject? Who knows?
I know, it's just like, no one's ever asked me for that. And, when you're going for an interview, I want personality. I want you to research. Harrison made some really good points there. He's researched my business. He asked these questions. I want a firm handshake. I want you to look me in the eye. I'm thinking, would you pass the pub test? Could I sit with you in a pub for an hour and not get bored of your company and want to walk away? And if you can pass that test, then that's a really big. And also, I want to know how if I sit you down in a coffee shop, I want to know how you interact with the server. Are you polite? Do you pick up your cup? Do you take it to the counter? Do you smile? Do you tip the server? How do you interact with someone that's serving you? Because you'll drop your guard, you'll put on this facade, but when you're in front of people, you drop that guard and your true personality comes out. So all those little tricks I look at when I'm employing people, both young and old.
Yeah, the pub test. I like that. That's another good one.
Yeah.
Well,
you sit with people in a pub. Yeah,
I get what you mean. Yeah,
I've got to go.
Definitely. Yeah, but you can't work with someone. You can't work with someone that you can't sit at a pub with. So.
No, exactly. Yeah, and and this is when you're meant to be happy, let
Yeah.
alone when you're in a stressful work environment.
Yeah.
So there's
And you got
there's
alcohol
loads of
to help.
links.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where can people find you on social media and whatnot to follow your journey?
Yeah, so I'm not really a great social media. Some people have like millions of followers, that sort of thing. LinkedIn is the best way to get hold of me. And if you search me on LinkedIn, then I use that platform mainly. I don't tend to use Instagram. I haven't got TikTok loaded on my phone or anything like that.
Lucky
So
you.
I'm not. It doesn't really appeal to me. Not because I don't understand the value, but
Yeah.
to give you an example, very very quickly, guys. I know we're pushed for time, but I work with a kitchen company, and Instagram is almost ruined the business. It's ruined it because they're an old English kitchen company. They make handmade kitchens, and what it is, people go on Instagram now and they see these kitchens that are being installed by the Kardashians and these, the Beckhams, and these kitchens cost hundreds of thousands of pounds with integration into tech, lighting, clever handmade flooring,
Yeah.
and then people are saying, well, that's the kitchen I want. I want that kitchen.
Yeah.
But you've got 10 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want you to do it for 10 grand. I want all of that there that the Beckhams are paying £1 million for
It's
10 grand.
Sorry, I was going to say it's the Love Island body equivalent of kitchens, really.
Exactly. So now, I'm now depressed because I can't get this Kardashian kitchen. And then eventually you're going to get a company out there, a handmade company that will try and do it. We need the business. We'll try and do it. So then they'll start to disappear because they can't provide the look and the feel that you're going to get. And because it's so accessible to people now, anybody can download Instagram and look at these wonderful pictures and believe that is achievable for everybody on a 10 grand budget. No, it's not. So the bar is here and people's money is there and their expectations are here.
Yeah.
And it's just causing a real, distrust and a problem at the moment. So I think that social media can also be, and it's wonderful, don't get me wrong, I love social media, but I think it can also be a poison chalice.
Yeah, sure. Well, your insights on LinkedIn are always very valuable. So if you are listening, do check Scott out on there. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott.
It's been my pleasure. Good luck, boys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.